Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, yo, MOM Radio and the Pipe Bomb Radio Network present Not Your Mama's Radio Show with your hosts, former WWE superstars and two men that are always on a mission, Oscar and Sermo.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Not Your Mama's Radio Show. Here is your host, Oscar, and joined as always with him is Miss Mimi. How you guys doing?
I'm great. How you doing, Felix?
Doing good. Trying to stay busy doing multiple things at once. It's always fun when you can have like 15,000 different things to do and so little time to do them all. Keeps you going.
Right.
Yeah. Oscar, how you doing, man?
I'm okay. How's everything going for you this week, my brother?
You know, not too bad. I can't complain. I've definitely been working and doing other projects and trying, just trying to help get the name out there for you guys, as well as working on your guys' social media as well. I'll bring it up at this point. Oscar and Mo and Mimi, they all have a fan page. In this case, it's the Men on a Mission, the Legacy fan page. And they also have, Oscar has a Twitter at MOM_Oscar on Twitter. And I just recently opened up one for their show as well on Instagram. I believe it's like not_yo_mamas_radio. There's a lot of underscores, but you get my point.
Well, yeah.
So they're getting out there. They're getting out there.
The Men on a Mission Legacy page is awesome. I saw it. Thank you. It is off to a great start. I mean, it's got stuff on it that I forgot. So, I mean, that's got to be a good thing.
Well, I'm glad I can help. Hey, you got to keep the memory alive, man.
Well, tonight we have got an interesting show. I mean, it has been, yet every week there seems to be an interesting week in the world of wrestling. I mean, we have got the TNA situation. We gotta figure out and ascertain and get to the bottom of the fact that with TNA losing their contract with Spike TV, is that the death of TNA? Can they survive this? I mean, is it such a body blow to the company that they can't recover? So, Phil's going to actually get his wish. We're actually going to talk about TNA tonight, so that should be interesting. Felix, you're going to drive that discussion. You know more about TNA than the rest of us, so I'm really going to look to your expertise to let us know, can TNA survive the death of their TV situation? Can they get another network deal? If they don't get a network deal, can they survive with just house shows? Will their international situations still survive what's going on? But the interesting thing to all this, the key factor to all this, which interests me even more than TNA barely breathing, is the fact that the blame of all of this is going to one man, a man to my knowledge hasn't really been active not only in TNA. I mean, I know he was still a consultant, but he hasn't really been active on the wrestling scene in quite some time. I'm talking years. And the blame is going to Vince Russo. Not only is Vince Russo being blamed for TNA, but this week alone, there's certain key members the Hart family, I read it. I don't know if it's true, but I read that they're blaming him for the death of Owen Hart.
Yeah.
I know back he was blamed for the death of WCW. I mean, and the question is, and personally, I'm gonna tell y'all, I don't know if I like the guy. I used to hang with the guy. We've had conversations. I've worked with the guy. I love Vince Russo to death. So is Vince Russo being a scapegoat, or is he really wrestling's antichrist? I want to get to the bottom. I mean, he's being blamed for so much. Check this out. They've even got pictures of him during World War II with Jewish people going Auschwitz. He's doing them brochures of Auschwitz concentration camp, calling it the happiest place on earth. Rides, shows, and attractions. I mean, they're really vilifying the guy. They got it with Jesus Christ going, look, Jesus, go over there by that cross and make a left. It's a shortcut. They're blaming Vince Russo for everything, and I just cannot imagine that Vince Russo is responsible for it all. Now, I do know when his ideas were popular, they were popular. It was Vince Russo that came up with the idea of the beer truck with Stone Cold, probably the tank with DX. I mean, some of wrestlers' memorable moments came from the mind of Vince Russo. Hulk Hogan took wrestling to new heights, but when wrestling slacked down, it was Vince Russo who was instrumental in bringing wrestling to the biggest, to the popularity when it started rising back to its peak. But that's the way of the world. You see a guy's accomplishments, you can do great things. Then nobody remembers that. But when he falls short or falls off or things don't work out, that's what people remember, and that's honestly what I think is going on with Vince Russo. Now, Felix, if you got some inside that I may not know, is Vince Russo a scapegoat or the Antichrist? That's my first question of the night.
You know what? I really think that they put a lot of the blame on because like you said, in reality, I have to agree. They look at him as a scapegoat because they feel that he was a demise of WCW, and he was this and he was that. And, you know, honestly, you can't blame one man because, to be honest, he does not have that kind of power to be able to take a company down. You know?
Right.
The same thing could be said about WCW. So, honestly, people are just looking at him for the quick fix, the blame, let's just wash our hands. And you know what? TNA is going to go down the toilet, and it's all Vince's fault. Really? I didn't know he had that much power. Last I heard, I thought power really rested in the hands of the Carter family. Dixie and then her parents, running the company. Last I heard, I didn't think Vince really had any power whatsoever.
Yeah,
but no, I don't believe he has any way to bring down a company. No.
But a lot of the ideas were his, and if the ideas, a lot of the ideas were his, but the ideas were his, but it's not his. It wasn't his final decision to implement those ideas, good or bad. So, I mean, and it's a thing to where Spike TV said that the main reason that they were getting rid of, not going to renew TNA's contract was because Vince Russo was still attached to the company. I mean, how about bad storylines and dipping ratings due to those bad storylines? Couldn't that be like the reason TNA is losing, is losing that contract situation? Not necessarily Vince Russo.
Exactly. I can see that definitely because they've had, you look at something like, I'll give you an example just to throw something in there really quick, and this is not to bash them in any way, but when I read something some time ago about one particular person, John Gaburek, I can't remember, is his name. He's in charge of a lot of things backstage. They hired on Christy Hemme as part of the creative team to come up with stories and so forth. And to be honest, what the hell does she know about anything about wrestling? I mean, she came into wrestling in 2005 for WWE and then left and then has been in TNA ever since. And basically all she is eye candy for television. What does she know about wrestling? I'm sorry. I take exception to things like that when they're sitting there blaming everybody else, but they're making stupid decisions. Sorry, I get a little vocal about that, but that's just my opinion.
No, I mean, that is just the reason why I'm glad you're here and we get to ask you about these things because, I mean, like I said, you have information that I don't have. I've never even heard of that person. So you know,
okay.
I'm getting an education real quick. But I'm just telling you that, like I said, you know, like I said, Vince Russo and this whole thing about, you know, about Owen and the Blue Blazer, okay, they say that night he suggested that Owen be the Blue Blazer, and as you know, him being a Blue Blazer, that was instrumental in causing the accident. But, hello, Owen was the Blue Blazer long before Vince Russo came along. Was he not?
I believe that.
Yeah, so it's just bewildering me how they are just steadily blaming Vince Russo practically out the clear blue. I mean, he's been blamed for things for the past. He's got that history and all that other kind of thing like that. But, you know, like I said, I'm reading this week. I mean, his name is everywhere. His name is everywhere, not in a positive light. And like I said, I happen to think that the guy's brilliant. I happen to think his ideas were genius. And I happen to think that Vince Russo's ideas catapulted wrestling, you know, back to the forefront. So, okay,
I actually wanted to bring up something really quick.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to bring up a comment that was made by Bill Apter, very respected journalist, and, you know, what he said made a lot of sense. You know, why jump to conclusions just yet? TNA is not dead yet. They haven't officially made the announcement. Why not wait until they announce, okay, we're going to stick with them, or, you know, we've got a backup plan. We're going to go to the country music station, or we're going to go to ION, or, you know what, we've got something on the CW, if they're even around still. But, you know, don't wait until they're until speculation leads you nowhere. Until you hear from the horse's mouth, don't assume.
I'm of the mind of one or two things. The last that from what I understand, they're still in a negotiation. There was some speculation that Spike TV may be looking to buy TNA, just like TBS bought WCW, and they can continue that way. But because of TNA's long-standing track record with Spike TV, I don't have a doubt that they can find another network home to go to. So I mean, I don't think that's gonna be an issue. I do think that they need to, you know, and like I said, I don't hardly watch it, or anything like that. I just hear rumors and rumblings and everything like that. But from what I understand, no matter what they do, they need to tighten up their product.
Agreed.
Anyway,
a lot of crazy things, man. Oh no, I was just saying a lot of crazy things going on.
It's just mind-boggling. I mean, that's why you're able to have a podcast, because this wrestling business is a gift that keeps on giving, and it gives people like us just plenty to talk about. Hey, speaking of plenty to talk about, the WWE has released yet another guy that should have been released with the first refugees that got released off. Mimi will cover it in her WWE behind-the-scenes report tonight. But Ricardo Rodriguez, gone. What did Ricardo Rodriguez ever contribute in the first place? I want to know this. I mean, he was on borrowed time ever since the first time he said, Alberto Del Rio. What do you think of that, Felix?
You know, he came from Rikishi's his actual wrestling school, so he has wrestling ability. However, because I'm only making assumptions because I don't know the facts, and they say don't assume. But you know, I'm guessing because he wasn't in tip-top shape. You know, he wasn't muscular and had biceps and triceps and all that kind of stuff, that they didn't put him out there in the ring. If they were, and not that he wasn't bad. He was bad with Alberto because he wasn't. He was entertaining. And he got the crowd involved and doing the, Alberto Del Rio or whatever, He got them involved, and that was fun. But then they relegated him to putting as a commentator, as an interviewer, as, only wrestling on NXT. I don't know. I figured they should have given him a chance.
What you just said was so true. The first time I actually saw him work in the ring, they had him in a match with the Big Show. And when he got started going, he got to going with the lucha libre style of wrestling, and I really was floored when I saw him, actually go. He did have some skills, and I think they could have utilized that. They could have put he could have toned up and been like the third Sin Cara. I mean, he was not half bad. I'm like, go ahead, Ricardo, go. I was like, yeah, he was not half bad. I mean, he got on the rope and flipped up and did a drop kick and kicked the Big Show right in the head with the Big Show's height. Really got up there, was jumping off the top rope and all of them kind of stuff like that. I'm like, oh, look at little Rodriguez, go ahead and go. But man, like I said, it just wasn't enough. Dream, you've seen? Have you ever seen Ricardo Rodriguez actually wrestle, or did you just see him just commentate?
No, I was just gonna say that I saw a quote that in a interview that he did, that he was saying that he was grateful for the 4 years at WWE, but he missed wrestling. So I mean, maybe we'll see him, again, but see him in I don't know, in another company or something. But he said that he misses wrestling.
That was his initial. His initial goal with going with this is to get into wrestling, but they had other plans for him, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And initially when you get into wrestling, your ultimate goal is to get to WWE, and when you get in there, you're like, oh, I'm going to wrestle. I'm going to be on WrestleMania, and you meet with the guys, and they have different plans for you, and they don't work out the way you plan.
I am so amazed how everybody that got released was so grateful for the tenure and just so pleased, and just so I want to thank them for somebody get released or fired and say how you really feel. Tell the damn truth. Those bastards, how dare they let me go? That company was nothing when I got there, and it's not going to be nothing now that I've left. Damn you, Vince McMahon. I mean, come on, let's keep it PI. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it honest. But like Mo said last week, everybody's, calm and cool, calm and collected, because everybody got that hope that, that they're going to get brought back, so nobody wants to say anything out the way, because here I am 25 years later, and you still don't hear me really blast the company. I mean, one day you'll get that call and say, like, Oscar, we're going to give you a cane and a walker, some crutches, and we want you to come out here and just do one last rap. It was like, yeah, okay, because I never said anything bad. But, hey, somebody's got to do it. Anyway,
somebody's got to do it.
Tonight's going to be a great night. We're going to have Al Snow on the program. We ran into Al Snow last week at the Fire Pro Wrestling event, him and Rhino. He agreed to do the show. I had a good conversation with him earlier. He's told me something interesting. He's been doing a lot of comic book conventions. I said to him, I was like, I got to find you guys as agents and actually books, because those comic book conventions can be a lot of wrestlers are starting to show up. They're starting to show up more at comic book conventions than they are at actually wrestling conventions. So I got to find out that information.
I don't know, because remember Joe Bruin said that they're making more money at those wrestling conventions than they do for some of the WWE events too.
Yeah, because number one, because you can you can get a flat rate, and then on top of that, you're able to sell your gimmicks and you're able to sell your stuff, and you pocket all that cash. So, that being the case, a lot of those events are very attractive. But like I said, in addition to actually straight out wrestling conventions, a lot of wrestlers are starting to show up at comic book conventions, because a lot of the comic fans are wrestling fans.
Comic-Con was really a big event.
Yeah, they had it up here in San Diego, if I'm not mistaken.
Comic-Con is the granddaddy of them all when it comes to comic book conventions. That's the biggest. It's held at the San Diego Convention Center every year. Every hotel in San Diego and the surrounding cities is sold out. And Al Snow told me that he was able to get a table at Comic-Con, itself. He's going to be at one, and he'll tell us about it. He's going to be in the upcoming one in Louisville that's coming up as well. So that's not a bad thing. That's you should
see if you can tag along with him, Oscar. See what it's like to check out the atmosphere.
I am really going to. I just have to get myself in order. I've been having a few, health problems that I got to get straight. But I do want to get back out there on the road because a lot of the stuff I'm doing now is not working out between the tax man, the child support people, and all those guys. I got to start making some money.
Understood. Hey, you're getting that itch to get back out there and interact with the fans. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I had a good time. And I'll say this about the network. The network has its advantages because there were a couple of little kids that came up to me last week at the Fire Pro outdoor events. These little kids were like, "Yeah, we saw you on the network. You were awesome." These kids were like 6, 7 years old. So, kids who wouldn't know Men on a Mission or anything else. And I thought they had me mixed up with somebody else, but they were like, "Yeah, we saw you in a match with Bam Bam Bigelow." I mean, okay, these little kids knew Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam Bigelow, God rest his soul, been gone a long time and off TV just as long as I have. But on the network, they actually saw that match and going back and watching all the old stuff. So yeah, I mean, it'd probably be a lucrative thing to get back out there because with the network, you got a brand new crop of fans. You got new fans, you got old fans, and just a new generation of people who are watching, the Attitude Era and the Aggression Era, and no disrespect to this era here, but seeing how it's really done properly, seeing how real wrestling went, seeing how real characters act, seeing how real storylines go, and seeing how it's really done. And speaking of how it's really done, Jenny was going to ask you a question. She was going to ask you, did the product start to look like? What was you going to ask?
After the WWE report. If we're going to go over everything in the report, why am I doing it?
Because you have to let us know what's happening. So we got
Al
Snow coming up.
After the WWE report.
Okay, well, we have Al Snow coming up next hour, so why don't you do the WWE report, then you can tell us all about everything that's going on. She's actually really fantastic. I was actually co-writing and co-producing the WWE report, but I got fired today. She's actually doing it on her own now, and it's like better than with this. I can't wait. You want to run a commercial first, Felix, or you want to get right into it?
You know what? I can do the commercial. That's not a problem. I have it uploaded here.
Okay, do the commercial. She's going to get her ducks in a row, and it's going to be the WWE report, and then we're going to talk about. Actually, we're grooming Mimi for her spinoff, the Dreamy Wrestling World. So let's hear that commercial, and then we'll be back with Dreamy Mimi.
You got it. 1 second, guys. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment, folks.
I woke up and I had crappy feet. Now I do have happy feet. I woke up, my gout had me yelling and screaming, got on the phone and called Dr. Freeman. Called Dr. Freeman and I went there, straight to free men foot care. I got an exam, I got my meds, now I don't have to sleep standing on my head. I got my exam and they were enhanced, and now I can walk, run, and even dance. Got my care, because I went there, my feet got fixed, the Freeman foot care.
And we are back, guys. I always get a kick out of that rap. In fact, that's actually been one of the people really have been come up to me and told me how much they enjoyed the commercial for Freeman, the rap, because it makes them think about when you used to come out to the ring and rap to the ring. And going back to a comment that you made, Oscar, too, I grew up, I was around when you guys debuted and so forth, but one particular one that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when Mo was on, too, is that I remember an instance when you came out and you were telling me the story about how because I saw you had the blonde mohawk. So, yeah, people get to see different things raw moments from the 90s or when it debuted and different stars that have come through and get to relive those moments. Old school fans get to relive it. New school fans get to reintroduced to it. And it's just going to keep getting better. I really think if people really invest their time into this, those that are true wrestling fans, it'll be worth your while. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there. A lot.
Wow. I mean, I am, I'm just truly amazed by it. I'm grateful by it. I think that it'll open a lot of doors, for not just for me personally, but for a lot of the guys, because there are things on the network where you see wrestling when it was at its just absolute best, and a lot of wrestling fans today don't know about it per se, but they can know about it because the network's available. So anyway, the WWE report, and here is Dreamy Mimi.
WWE Network International. This is your WWE report for the week of July 27th, 2014. Well, it's been reported that the WWE Network will begin its national launch August 12th, just in time for SummerSlam. They will expand to 170 countries. They are really going all out to ensure the excitement for SummerSlam this year. As in recent news, former WWE Women's Champ Stephanie McMahon will go up against the rehired Brie Bella. Brie demanded to be reinstated as a diva, a raise for her sister, and a match at SummerSlam in order to drop the charges against McMahon. Cena admits that SummerSlam will be a fight of his life against the Beast Incarnate. But at the end of the night, he says he will still be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. On Raw, Roman Reigns took a beating at the hands of the Demon Kane and Randy Orton. And Bo Dallas' streak has ended at the hands of R-Truth.
Thank God.
Is Monday Night Raw going back to what made the show work in the 90s? It's been said that the recent episodes of Raw are reminiscent of the Attitude Era because of its storytelling and attention to detail. What do you think? Announcer/talent Ricardo Rodriguez, also known as El Loco, has been released from the WWE. For other news, what's to come of TNA? Reportedly, their running relationship with Spike Network is coming to an end. If they are not able to renew or find another network, what will become of the talent roster? Jeff Hardy has expressed in a recent interview his hopes of returning to WWE. And CM Punk has stepped into new territory, conducting interviews on the red carpet at the APMA's Alternative Press Music Awards. This WWE report was brought to you by Whitaker & Company, certified public accountants, located in Gary, Indiana, 219-880-0850.
Oh, so we don't have to believe anymore?
No, we don't have to believe.
And I'm sorry, we don't normally ever interrupt you during that, but that piece of news right there was like waiting to exhale. I didn't mean to say nothing, but Jesus Christ. Finally, to R-Truth, I got two words. What's up? That's all I can say. Maybe they'll take the wind out of Bo Dallas' sail, send him back to NXT, and he can come back with a gimmick that we can't believe in. The next thing we got to do is straighten out that Adam Rose situation, because that is a hot mess.
Yes, it is.
All right, so now that they're not going to have fan access to SummerSlam, I guess they'll use that money to really promote SummerSlam and make the actual event a big deal. I mean,
actually, I want to bring to your attention, in case you guys didn't hear, I'm not sure if you did or not, but although they are doing away with the access, they are doing some kind of SummerSlam panel discussion where fans get to arrive
last week. Yeah.
Look,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Go ahead.
No, but the panel situation is going to be way scaled down and smaller than what the access was. The access was when they blocked off the whole street of LA Live, and they had about 20, 30 different things going on. The panel's going to be at Club Nokia that holds like 2,500 people, and they'll have like Hogan and, you know, a few of them up there, and then I guess they'll do like a Q&A or something like that. But that's really scaled down, really smaller than what they've been having. Because, see, the SummerSlam access, that was just like, you know, it was almost or as big as the WrestleMania access that they have, you know, the interactive, you know, event where the fans can come in for 2 days and they just blanket the streets of LA Live that hold about 20,000 or more people out there.
Right.
And this is like a two or 3 day event that they have out there, and everybody can meet the wrestlers and get autographs and buy merchandise. And they have a ring set up and a whole bunch of different things. But, yeah, this panel thing they're going to have is going to be way scaled down.
Oscar, I got a question for you. I mean, in the mid-'90s, WWE did some attempts at doing some fan accesses. Were Men on a Mission at some of those, like in like 94, 95, 96, somewhere around there?
We were in WrestleMania 10, and, yeah, we worked fan access. They had it, I want to say they had it, fan access, I want to say it was at the Jacob Javits Center, if I'm not mistaken. I could be, but they had it at a big convention center. And, yeah, they worked us like dogs. We were there morning, noon, and night. Men on a Mission was at the Men on a Mission with the talent that was at the access at that time. They, you know, for the 3 days they had it, we were there more than anybody else.
And I bet the fans were loving it.
Yeah, they were loving it. I mean, it was good. They had the Undertaker's graveyard there. They had Dunk the Doink. They had Doink the Clown in a dunk tank. And I actually got in the dunk tank when Doink went and took a lunch break or something like that. So they dunked me. And I remember Tony Gurria, who really didn't care for me too much. I went over and I was like, "You need me to go in the dunk tank?" And he was like, "It's called Dunk the Doink, not Dunk the Oscar." And J.J. Dillon was like, "No, let him get in there and go in there." Yeah, he threatened to fine me $200 because I told him he needed to buckle up when we were on a flight, and I kept telling him, and I knew it was getting on his nerves, so I kept telling him anyway. Yeah. Oh yeah. Then my favorite one where the mic didn't work in DuPont, Illinois, and I didn't rap, and he got on my case and he was like, "You're paid to rap. I don't care if there is no microphone. You must yell it out to the people. That's what they pay you for, to rap. You're going to kill the gimmick in DuPont, Illinois, Oscar. DuPont, Illinois." Yeah, he didn't care for me too much. And you know what? On a related matter, that's why every time I watched his ass on Channel 9, he always lost to everybody. There, that's what I remember of Tony Gurria. You glorified job guy. I digress. I'm sorry. I just had a flashback. Anyway.
No worries.
Anyway. Check on Al Snow. We're supposed to give him a reminder call before we get him on.
Okay. I will be back in just a moment, guys.
You're quite efficient. So, Dreamy, you are not a fan of Bo Dallas, but you are a fan of John Cena. What do you think is going to happen? Did you see it in a dream? John Cena versus the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. How do you see that playing out at SummerSlam?
Unfortunately, I believe John Cena is going to lose the belt.
He's going to lose the belt to Brock Lesnar?
Yes.
But, honey, why?
I mean, come on. They're bringing the Beast Incarnate in to strip John Cena of the belt. They don't use that guy that often. I mean, he just beat The Undertaker. So, come on. He's going to win the belt.
Okay, he's going to win the belt, and when will somebody be able to win it back? Survivor Series of 2016? I mean, when the guy decides to come back to work Are we just going to
I mean, of course the next big thing, WrestleMania, because that's the only time he shows up is for the big events. SummerSlam, WrestleMania. So, yeah, that's when we'll see a title change again.
What do you think of that? Okay, so let me get this straight. You've got a lot of guys that, because of budget cuts, they're losing their jobs. They have to let a lot of people go. But Brock Lesnar gets paid millions of dollars. He gets to show up 3 or 4 or 5 times a year. Is that fair?
I mean, it's not a fair business, but, I mean, they go with the talent that they have. Like, okay, some people might think it's not fair that John Cena gets the money that he gets as opposed to what everybody else gets. But he made a name for himself, so, hey. And Brock Lesnar, whoever he has as an agent, was just brilliant because, I mean, they really capitalized on the fact that he broke that streak because that's the only reason why he could negotiate like that.
Well, I don't like to correct you in the public, but he was negotiating like that before. They've been paying Brock Lesnar through the nose, forever to just show up at a pay-per-view. Here a pay-per-view, there a pay-per-view. Not everywhere a pay-per-view, but whatever pay-per-view he want to show up with his Jimmy John's sweatshirt on and just, work a match or two and, get a huge payday.
Okay, but again, he's Brock Lesnar. So,
and
like
he's all about the money.
He's got that name. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you guys off
with
there.
Al?
Yes, I did speak with him. He's definitely ready whenever you are. Whether you call him now or 10 minutes from now or an hour at the top of the hour, he's definitely ready.
All right, we are going to call Al in a few minutes. I can't wait to talk to Al Snow. Dreamy, you have some questions for Al Snow?
Actually, I do.
Oh, Dreamy's going to do an interview, so you know what?
Wait. You said Dreamy's going to do what?
So you're going to do an interview with Al Snow, so with no delay?
No, Jamie's not doing the interview.
But you have some questions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mimi and I are going to sit back and let you old friends reminisce, and then once you guys are done, we'll butt in and say our piece.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So yeah. What else? All right. So I'm getting these mixed messages. I'm trying to speak it to the network. I'm trying to get my bearings here. Felix, maybe you can clear this up. I read on the I read the app 2-3 times a day because a lot of the news I get comes from the app, and frankly, I don't know how some of the stuff gets on there that gets on there. They said that they lost 161,000 subscribers, and then I read that they gained 100-some-odd-thousand subscribers. What have you heard?
Back when they did their initial report back in April after WrestleMania, they had reported 667,000, and then today, or I think it was today, they did some kind of conference call. And supposedly, of course, they announced a few things about the expansion and so forth, but I heard that they were hoping it would be close to the 1 million mark to break even, but that it only went up maybe into the 700,000 mark area.
Yeah.
Didn't go up very much. So they're hoping with this expansion that it will get people to want to subscribe, and they'll by the end of 2014 they'll break even. They're hoping.
Well,
that's what I've heard.
Yeah, how could it not? I mean, you have really rabid WWE fans in other countries, particularly Germany.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I know that they was going over there multiple times during the years. The houses were selling out. The ticket prices were triple, almost quadruple what they were charging over here. So, yeah, I'm actually really thinking that when they expand to these other countries and everything like that they should see some profitability, which is probably why they wasn't so worried in the first place.
And I don't know if you guys had mentioned it when I stepped away, but they had talked about the guys backstage, the wrestling guys, the guys and the gals, let's just put it that way. They were expecting their WrestleMania bonuses to be, well, let's just say nothing. chump change, as opposed to what they made in years prior. And come to find out that they actually made a lot more and then some than what they had anticipated.
Oh, wow.
They had like an increase plus like a 40% bonus, and I'm like, to say they were smiling year to year, I think that's an understatement. They were definitely thrilled, more surprised than anything else.
I am certainly glad that you brought that up, because I really don't keep track anymore of when the royalty checks go out. But if they were smiling ear to ear because they got their royalty checks, that means the royalties for this quarter went out. So I need to call Burger Maskell tomorrow and find out that if if I'm going to get a check sent out so he can send it to the proper place. Because, you just now told me what I wanted to hear, that it's royalty season. So when royalty season come out, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to check. So,
I really think that they should. No problem. What I was going to say too is that I really believe with them bringing a lot of the nostalgia factor back from the early '90s, that why not have a Man on a Mission T-shirt and maybe a DVD deal, even if it's just their greatest matches at first, and then maybe work into a documentary thing somewhere down the line. I mean, why not? You guys deserve to be remembered too. If they can remember a lot of other people from that era, why not you guys? Right? Just saying.
It has got to happen. I mean, I really expected. I expected a lot to happen. With the unfortunate passing of Nelson, of Mabel. That unfortunately is when a lot of things happen. So I think that we're on the cusp of seeing some things like that. But, and ironically, it was about 3 weeks, and this is no lie, 3 weeks before he died, we had a telephone. It was one of our last conversations. He was like, the money going to come in, dog, when we start dying off. He was like, when we start dying, that's when you go see the Men on a Mission Greatest Hits DVDs and the Men on a Mission entrance into the Hall of Fame, dog, and a whole lot of other stuff like that. So, that's ironically what he said in one of our last conversations. I'll never forget it. And and look at it now. You got the network on there, and the whole Men on a Mission library is on. Matter of fact, I don't know whether you were you there? Okay, this is what I heard. Were you tuned in to when the network first started? Let me clear something up real fast. To when the network first came on the television.
I mean, when it debuted online on WWE.com?
When it debuted online, right. When it was like, pow, here's the network.
Actually, I watched it within like a day or two later, but I tuned in because I didn't watch it that night because it was so overly swamped with millions of people trying to, get their free subscription, because they were offering the free, but you had to put a credit card down. But it was still free.
Somebody told me that if not the first thing they showed, one of the first things they showed was our rap at Madison Square Garden. Somebody told me that's how they opened the network up. I don't know how true that is, but when they told me that, I was floored.
You guys are definitely remembered.
I had a young guy come up to me at the wrestling event that we went to last weekend and was just expressing how upset he was with WWE because of the way that they handled things with Nelson, that it wasn't, plastered on the, TV, that they didn't acknowledge it, and he was really upset about it.
It took a week for them to actually do something, and my personal offense is one thing. You could expect that because, I'm close to it. His wife was livid.
Actually,
you could imagine how livid is not even a word. Mo was upset.
Oscar, can I cut you off real quick? I did want to mention that it is true that you did the Men on a Mission were actually out the very first day the network came out. They were some of the first things that were seen when the network debuted officially. That was messaged to me by somebody who's tuning in.
Okay.
That is beyond just awesome to me. I mean, that's got to be a sign of things to come. And whoever messaged that, thank you very much for that piece of information. Somebody told me that, but I'm thinking they just telling me that to blow smoke to make me feel good, because I can't. I just seen. I mean, honestly, to be honest, and to be honest to everybody listening, sometimes I feel so forgotten by them, not by fans, but by the WWE in itself. But I mean, hey, if that's one of the first things they showed, and I mean, I am grateful. You can go and get Al Snow now, because it's time to interview him. And then I just noticed something. Mo's not here. That's a shame that I'm just not noticing that he's not. No,
it's conspicuous by his absence. Yes, I'm going to get Al on the phone now.
Yeah, no, he's actually just to let everybody know, he's actually swamped down there in Tennessee because he has two huge events coming up tomorrow and Saturday. I mean, really huge. Bully Bash in McKenzie, Tennessee, and Bully Mania in Jackson, Tennessee. At two big venues. He's got the Jackson Arena for Saturday. He's been doing television interviews. He's been doing press. He's been really pushing this event. So he's really swamped tonight, getting ready to have the big blowout. I wish I could be down there with him, but unfortunately I can't. But yeah, he's not here tonight because he's getting ready for Bully Bash and Bully Mania. He's doing an incredible job when it comes down to this anti-bullying campaign. We're going to expand it out here to Indiana, where I am. Other parts of the country, we're going to work together on it. So for all you bullies out there, you better stop bullying, because we coming for all you punks. So yeah, he's doing a real good job out there. The next Martin Luther King, Mo, Sir Mo, Bobby Horn. So, Dreamy, I told you I was famous, honey. What do you think of that? That was one of the first things with the network. Your man.
Okay, Oscar, I do want to let you know that I do have Mr. Al Snow. He is now patiently waiting on hold. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on right now.
Wow.
Not only do you tell Al Snow, the only way he gets in here is if he brings some head.
I always do that.
All right, Al. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you, Oscar?
I'm fine, man. It is good to talk to you. It was good to see you last weekend. Good to talk to you earlier today. I kind of miss you, man. How you been doing, and what you been up to?
I've been doing great. I do magic for the blind now. It's amazing. They love card tricks.
I'm sorry, magic for the blind.
Yeah, I just got to sleep after every trick. I don't know anything happened, but it's wonderful. It's a way for me to give back to the community. I mean, they just like, how did he do that? He's incredible. They never see it coming.
No, yeah. Okay. Now, disclaimer for all you blind people listening out there, that's Al Snow, ALSNOW, and his views and expressions are not necessarily those that are mentioned, not your mama's radio show, Dreamy Mimi, Felix Barbados, Fermo, or anybody, Al Snow is an independent entity. All right, my first question to you, Al, is this. Where did the whole head idea come from?
At the time, I was with WWF, as it was known at that time, and was kind of frustrated, and then got put on loan to ECW, and I just wanted to show that frustration, and kept trying to think of different ways to show that I was crazy and had a nervous breakdown, and I found a styrofoam head in the back, and literally started carrying it around with me and talking to it and treating it like it was a real person, and whenever I would lose, I'd get upset, I'd beat it up, and then people would boo and get upset because I beat up a styrofoam head. So and for some reason, people connected with it, and it took off. Still to this day, I don't know why, but people love it. So, I'm just thankful, for the grace of God and a little head that I had a career. So
it became, things happen by accident, but that actually became a worldwide phenomenon. It is one of the biggest, most talked about gimmicks in wrestling history. It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing to me to hear that, it's not something that you were given or Vince told you to do it or something planned out. I'm going to pick this head up and go out here and and now it's like your signature thing, and you are a worldwide famous individual for it. That is incredible.
Oscar, I don't need to tell you. I think, some of the greatest stuff that's the magic of the wrestling business is that guys go out there and, it's not hard to learn to wrestle. It's hard to find yourself and find that persona, that character that, you create and then connects with the audience because you're the one that created it. It being given to you most of the time doesn't really work because it's not the guy that found it. It's somebody else that thought, oh, you kind of fit that mold. And so it doesn't connect. And, when you happen upon stuff, it just takes a long time for you to finally get that right thing sometimes.
Now, out of WWF, ECW, where'd you have the best of times, the worst of times? Give that to us. WWF, well, okay, I know ECW, the operation was smaller, the venues were smaller, but the wrestling was a lot more intense. So where did you find it harder to fit in or find it harder to operate at a WWE or WWF or ECW?
I really, as I've gotten older and gotten more experienced, I realized that, it was really what I made of it at the time. And, ECW was really good because that was when everything clicked into place, you know what I mean? And it all worked. So, of course, I'm going to say that was a much better time. But, whenever I think back about it, and, Vince used to always say, hey, every time you go out there to the ring, it's an opportunity. He's right. It's your chance to sell yourself, and especially these days, the talent themselves, they've got to stop being so job scared and just sometimes just grab the ball and run with it and see what happens. So knowing now, I wish I knew it then, and I would have been able to take far more greater advantage of the opportunities that were given. In either place.
There's not one of us kids that doesn't say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so what would you say, if Al Snow had to say his most memorable match, what would that be? And from a shoot perspective, not even from a work perspective, from a shoot perspective, who did you enjoy working with the most?
Oh, God. Those are always the toughest questions because I've been around, for 32 years, so it's been a long time. I would say one of the most memorable moments was when in Asbury Park on the ECW pay-per-view when they had 4,000 heads in the audience and styrofoam heads.
I remember that.
There. Yeah, that was an amazing visual sight that just, even at the time, I didn't fully appreciate it as much as I do now. It was just incredible.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, which character did you enjoy being the most?
I enjoyed them all, but I of course enjoyed Al Snow the most, or the crazy gimmick with the head. Because,
okay.
To be honest with you, it's so awesome to be insane because you can't do wrong. I could do anything, the most ridiculous things that they could come up with. I could do them and I could get away with it, and I wouldn't be thought less of because, oh, well, he's crazy. It's no big deal. So, they had me do a lot of goofy things that might have killed anyone else off. But for me, it was just like, oh, well, he's crazy Al. It'll be fine. And I was allowed to have a lot of fun and do a lot of things that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do if I hadn't done the insane gimmick. So.
Well, yeah, you've had a very busy, full career. I was reading about some of your travels and just from WWF to ECW, WWE, and independent in Europe, Germany, Japan, doing movies, and it's just you've had a lot going on over the years.
I try to keep busy and try to, like Oscar knows, we just try to hustle and try to go from one thing to the next. You just try to keep yourself out there and keep yourself relevant as much as you possibly can. So.
All right, and Mr. Snow, I was just curious.
Okay.
I was just curious. What were some of your best memories working with the Tough Enough Kids from like the early 2000s? Do you still keep in contact with some of them?
Oh yeah, I still touch base with them once in a while, and everything about that was it was an awesome time. It was just so much fun, and what a great opportunity to be involved with something like that. Where I still got to be a part of the wrestling business, but it was such a positive part of the wrestling business, and you got to train train kid hopefuls and and get to hopefully help fans get a better insight into things and maybe get a new respect for things, and for people who didn't care about the wrestling business, maybe kind of make them interested in it, by doing, by having that watching that show. So it was really cool. I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, it was probably one of the high points of my career.
I actually did speak to Hawk. Actually, I did speak to Hawk a couple of months ago, and he definitely spoke highly of you, the whole experience, and he was just thankful that he got to be a small part of such a big thing that it was back then.
Yeah, it was awesome. It really was. It was such a great experience. I would love to have just kept doing it, for years. It would have been fantastic, but things change.
I think so.
It was definitely one of the better shows that took a look, inside the business. I mean, it really was good, and you were great on it. Now, this is a question I like to ask everybody. What do you think of the product today, and what do they have to do? What do you think of the product today? I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I wish I could give you an opinion, but I haven't watched it such a long time that it would be tough to give an opinion on it is. I mean, I can say this. I mean, as far as the wrestling business as a whole, it's becoming a lost art form that starts slowly dying away because it's not being passed on. It's not the right thoughts and ideas and concepts aren't being taught to the younger generation. So, I mean, they're trying, and but the best way to learn is through experience, and the best way to get that experience is to go out there and work in front of an audience, and the real thing that's being lost is what a wrestler's real job is. A wrestler's job is not to wrestle a match. A wrestler's job is to be an attraction, to motivate people to pay to see him. It doesn't matter how wrestles. All that matters is if they can motivate people to leave their comfortable seat, go pay an exorbitant amount of money, and sit in an uncomfortable seat for 2.5 hours and watch them. That's not an easy trick to do. And, the less that the talents focus on that, and the more they focus on just having a great match, the more the business suffers.
So you think that because I was under the impression the independent scene, and when I say the independent scene, I'm talking nationwide, was starting to grow. That's not the case?
I don't know if it's going to grow. The old saying, Oscar. I mean, you can put a pair of boots and a pair of tights on anybody and call them a wrestler, but only workers make money, and there are not a lot of workers left in the world. Not a lot of guys that. If I always ask the one question of all these young guys, and nobody can answer me until I tell them what it is, I'm like, there's only one thing that's fake about wrestling, and it's the one thing that's always been fake, and it'll never change. So when people tell me that the business has changed, I always answer, well, if you've come up with something new that's fake, then the business has changed. But if not, it's still exactly the same, and that's just the finish. The only thing the audience pays to believe in is the finish. They don't pay to believe in your moves because they've never experienced them and never felt them, and they think the ring's a mattress or a trampoline. So it doesn't matter how hard you throw me down, the audience is never going to relate to it. All they're going to relate to is that you threw me down to try to beat me. And if you don't try to use it to beat me, You turn around and pick me right back up from the very place you could have won the match. You've just told everybody that there's no reason to give a care about what's happening in that ring. And if they don't give a care about what's happening in the ring, then you're not going to draw heat. And if you're not going to draw heat, you're not going to draw money. If you're not going to draw money, you're not going to be a business. We have more
I'm glad you brought that up.
Ability in the business now than we've ever had in the history of this business. Ever. More athletic ability. And the business is, you have fewer places to work and make a living nowadays than ever before because of the very simple fact that very few guys care about whether or not they draw a house and are more concerned about whether or not somebody said they had a good match.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because that leads me to a question I'm dying to ask. Okay, Al Snow boot camp. What do you teach? What do they learn? Walk us through the typical day of what an Al Snow boot camp. For all those out there that ever want to go to a boot camp that Al Snow is teaching, what happens?
Really, I end up basically talking to them. I don't have them wrestle because everybody wrestles the same now. Everybody performs that 7-step match that, that formula that doesn't work because, listen, anybody can be a painter, but not everybody can be an artist. And when you're doing remember the paint by numbers pictures? They were beautiful pictures.
Yeah.
But you'll never see them in a museum. And the reason you won't is because they're done from the head, not from the heart. But when you perform a match like a paint by numbers, then as a result, you've done it from your head, it don't sell. It has no passion. It has no feeling because it's all been done mentally, not emotionally. And that's not what we sell. And when you go to a boot camp or seminar or whatever, I try to explain what the business is really about, what their job is really, the things we were talking about right now, about what the real terms are, where the term mark came from, what it means, what a work really is, what heat really is, what a gimmick is. They're all terms that you hear all of these guys use, but they really don't know what they are, and they don't know how they're using them. Term pop. If I hear one more person misuse that term, I'm going to shoot myself because they think a pop is where the crowd makes noise, and it's like, no, a pop is literally where the audience has an orgasm, emotionally has an orgasm. They pop their nut. That's short for pop their nut, not just pop. And you just make noise doesn't mean that they emotionally went to the limit. So, most of the guys are now going out there and trying to work for noise as opposed to working for that emotional explosion that will then motivate the audience to walk out of the building and tell everybody else to come next month. So, and that all centers around, again, knowing what the audience is paying to see, and that's that they want to see the finish. They want to believe that the finish matters, that it has a consequence to it, that you care whether you win or lose. And there's so many little things that the talent these days just, something as simple as they lock up, and Oscar, I'm sure you've seen it 100 times, they lock up and on the break, on the ropes, babyface, who's supposed to be the most aggressive guy in the ring, backs 3/4 away across the ring. Oh,
yeah.
What's happened now? What are we doing? It just, there's so much of the thought process and the ideas that are so convoluted now that have been lost. That, I love the term rest hold, which was instituted by smart marks, which is the most oxymoronic term I've ever heard because there's no such thing as a smart mark. You can't be smart to the work and be a mark for it at the same time. And what's absurd about it is the people that came up with that term were marks so that they could differentiate themselves and say, we're not just fans, we now know enough about the business that we're kind of on the inside. No, you're not. Unless you've ever been in the ring and performed, you have no idea what you're talking about. That's like me saying I watch medical shows and I go on the internet every day and I read the New England Journal of Medical Science, so apparently I'm a doctor.
my last question before I want you to plug where you're going to be. I paid my $1 to see you last week, and I got like 5 minutes of Al Snow. Who told you? What was happening with that? I'm thinking you getting in the cage. We're going to get a 20-minute marathon match, an Iron Man match, with 2 out of 3 falls or something like that. You got him there for 5 minutes. It just left. Did they tell you to do that, or you just was contracted to just go in there and say hi?
No, honestly, it was because it was my idea. My belief was that if we could build the heat where the audience would want to see me finally get in there.
There you go.
And do something to kick the heels' rear ends, and then let the local guy win the match. The problem was that the audience, the show had went 3 hours. So by the time we had gotten out there,
right,
you just can't. I would go long. I would work 20, 30 minutes. It makes no difference to me physically. But the problem is emotionally, if the audience isn't going to go any further, what's the point? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I always tell guys, wrestling's just like having sex. Do you know what I mean? It's no different. You gotta build them up and get them as high as you can go, and then go home. And because if you go any further, they're going to drop down the other side. And before they, you have sex, the idea you have is about having sex. After you have sex and you pop, then all you want to do is eat a sandwich and go to sleep. Well, it's the same for the audience. And they were worn out that night. And, I could get more out of them, but you just can't sometimes. So.
Well, Al, I'm going to tell you, I personally love you. I love to watch you work. I've always loved to watch you work. So I was laying in the bed naked going, is that it?
I know, and I felt bad because I love to go and just go as long as I can go. I really do, but
I know you do.
That poor crowd had been bludgeoned to death for 3 hours. I mean, they just been beat up.
It was long. I mean, you had 3 cage matches. I mean, we don't write these things. All right, so there's still some summer left. Where can we find Al Snow this month or next month? Where you going to be, and where can I find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at The Real Al Snow, and I'm on Facebook with the same. And I am going to be in Marion, Indiana this Saturday, and I'm going to be at. Then I'm going to New York for TNA's TV next week. Then I'm going across the pond to England for British Boot Camp, which is kind of like a Tough Enough type show. And then I'll be possibly at Wizard World in Chicago the weekend of the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. So,
you're at Wizard World. I'm coming down there to see you. Okay, wait a minute. You're going to TNA. You're going to TNA, so you got the inside track. Can they survive this whole Spike TV debacle going on?
I think so. I think that, people have been crying the demise of TNA for how many years now?
A long time.
Oh, yeah. So, is it good? No, but I think there'll be some kind of agreement or some kind of deal that will be reached, and and they'll continue on.
Okay.
And while I got you on the phone, one last question: Vince Russo, scapegoat, or is he really wrestling's antichrist?
Okay.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think Vince Russo actually gave a lot of guys a lot of opportunities that you would have never gotten.
That's what I'm thinking.
Those chances, and never would have gotten those opportunities if it hadn't been for Vince.
Amen to that.
I think he was very.
Everything.
I don't know. He's apparently, how some territories have a whipping boy. Well, apparently Vince is the whipping boy of wrestling. So,
yeah, that's a shame too.
Yeah.
All right,
and I think he really gets a lot of heat for a lot of wrong reasons. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
We couldn't agree more. I love the guy personally. I said it at the top of the show, and I'm saying that now. I love Vince Russo.
You get my address and all that stuff, right?
He's a good guy. He is.
All right, Al, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it, and I'm going to catch it with you before the sun is out, and we'll have a few laughs, okay?
That sounds great, Oscar. Thank you.
All right, Al, thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Al.
Take care. Bye-bye.
La Musa Road, right?
The one and only
Always
Al
a good
Snow.
guy.
I enjoyed listening
you,
to him talk. He's a great storyteller.
Yeah, you gotta love somebody like that. I love Al Snow. But was it me, or did he just sound like he was at like he was like at the drive-through in hell? I mean, it was like a nonstop ordering of cheeseburgers. The lady in the background sounded like she was just taking his order for cheese on his fries the whole time.
Actually,
like,
I did want to comment on that. If by chance, and I'm not saying this is either one of you guys, but if for whatever reason you guys step away from the mic, make sure you step far away, because if you don't step far enough away, we can hear what's going on in the background.
Yeah, well,
just an FYI.
No, we heard.
Just an FYI. As you obviously heard.
Whatever drive-through he was at, we heard it the whole time.
Okay, just letting you know.
Yeah, but yeah,
okay.
he brought up a lot of interesting points about guys, they don't see the reason why, especially in the independents, that a lot of guys don't know what wrestling terms really mean. They don't know what mark means. They don't know what pop means. They don't know what kayfabe really is because the guys that are teaching them don't know. These are upper echelon wrestling terms that the elite made up, that the elite know, and they don't, and anybody can learn to wrestle, and then they can learn to teach other people. You can teach people wrestling, but that doesn't necessarily mean you could teach them the wrestling business. And that's what he was trying to impart when he was talking about the terminology, and a lot of people misuse the words and everything like that. And I honestly believe that even today's guys, today's WWE guys, don't fully appreciate, what the terminology is, what it means, and what they do. They know what they're saying, when they say those terms that come down all the way from the beginning. Those terms come down from the days of Wahoo McDaniel, when Vince McMahon was a commentary. Those terms come down when Frank Gotch wrestled George Hackenschmidt in the first real wrestling match back in the 20s. So, that was an education right there when he was, definitely saying that.
Yeah, I definitely sat back and was like, gaga. I was like going gaga, as Pat Patterson would say, I'm going gaga over listening to some people. Just a hell of a storyteller. Anytime I hear great storytellers, it makes it so easy because you don't have to ask too many questions, and they'll just talk.
Right.
Because they have so much information and so much to teach you. I'm looking at this as a fan. Oscar, you were in the business for a long time, and deep down, you're just a fan too. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy talking to a lot of these guys and girls that will be coming on in the future, and from Q-Ball Carmichael to Al Snow with a little bit of head. We got an education.
You go back to Q-Ball Carmichael, and I'm almost ashamed of the things that I said, but I didn't know who he was. But Q-Ball came on here, and he was like, it was like being in school. I mean, I've been in the wrestling business 20-plus years, but it was like being in school when Q-Ball Carmichael was on here because, you just listening to that man, you got your pad and your pen out, and you just want to steal his ideas. The next wrestling seminar I go through, they're going to think Q-Ball Carmichael's speaking because he taught me enough stuff where I actually can go teach somebody something. See, those are the kind of people I like listening to in life, people that can teach me something.
No doubt about that.
Dreamy?
Yeah, you actually jumped into one of my first questions that I had for Al Snow when you asked him about the little head. Oh,
yeah. Well, I asked that question because you brought it up when you saw him, and I was trying to explain it to you. But that's Al Snow's. That's his signature.
Well,
and
I know.
I didn't even know. Go ahead.
What I found out when reading about him and looking him up and everything was that that's how the gimmick came about. Is that for years he had been a jobber, so the insanity. That's what it came from. He was like, okay, he's insane because of the resentment of being a job guy for so many years.
You will be surprised how many people that were job guys that came out to the forefront. We talked to Headbanger Thrasher a couple of weeks ago. I know you guys remember that. Now, his real name is Glenn Ruth. One of the first matches that Men on a Mission had, and if it's not the debut, it's somewhere in that time frame within that month. Our first match was with Headbanger Thrasher when he was Glenn Ruth with his tag team partner, whoever the hell the other guy is. So, yeah, a lot of those guys, and you know what, until he said that, I didn't, as a matter of fact, I didn't when he said it. He said he wrestled us, but I'm like, you did? And I'm trying to remember. And then when I saw what his real name was, that's when I remembered. That's Glenn Ruth. My point is that, Al Snow, and then you had Just Incredible as P.J. Walker, big job guy. I mean, putting everybody over. When we used to have those squash matches, back there in the 80s and 90s. And then these guys had such humility. See, that's the point. When you're a jobber or a talent enhancement guy, which is the politically correct term where they call them today, they don't really use them anymore. But when you had a lot of humility back then doing the jobs, and a lot of the job guys had to be just as, if not more talented than the superstar that they were up against because their job was taking bumps. That's what their job was. Taking bumps, doing moves, and putting people over. That was their job. That was they paid for. They was never paid to win, never paid to be over or anything like that, never even paid to give a decent offense, just to get their behind beat for however many minutes that match went on and make the other guy look stupendous. That's what their thing was. So the guys that excelled in that, we're talking about your Mike Sharps and your Barry Horowitz and like your Al Snow and your Just Incredibles and whoever and your Headbanger Thrasher, Glenn Ruth. These people excelled in that area, and from that they went on to get jobs and to become incredible talents in this business. It's a very, very, very interesting progression. One of the most interesting job stories that there is, Felix, was my nemesis, the guy that I couldn't stand, and that's a 1-2-3 kid known as X-Pac today. Let me tell you how that came about. He was Sean Waltman. That's his real name. He was a job guy. Vince told him that he was going to go to the forefront, but he didn't tell him how, or he didn't tell him what was he going to be. So he went out there week after week after week, doing job after job after job after job after job. Okay. So he went to Vince, and he was like, Vince, you told me that. And Vince was like, just trust me. I know what I'm doing. And he used the guy every week. So a lot of people was getting to know his name, getting out there, because they would use different job guys all the time. You didn't know one from the other. But P.J. Walker went out there all the time. And yeah, P.J., I'm putting you over on the radio, even though you didn't come on my show, but that's okay, Mr. Palaka. So anyway, no, I'm not. What the hell am I talking about? I'm not talking about him. See, that stroke thing got me. I'm not even talking about him no more. I'm not P.J. Walker. I'm talking about Sean Waltman, 1-2-3 Kid. Excuse me, everybody. I'm a little bit nuts. Okay, so Sean Waltman went out there. So the night came when he was going against Razor Ramon, when Razor Ramon was at his peak. Razor Ramon, who was Scott Hall, NWO fame, but his famous thing was being Razor Ramon. So the night came where he went up against Razor Ramon as Sean Waltman, Razor Ramon. So he goes in and he beats Razor Ramon, 1, 2, 3. So that's when, it looked like a fluke, it looked like an accident, it looked like a luck of the draw or whatever, but that's when he got branded the 1, 2, 3 Kid. And the next week he came out with his suit with the 1, 2, 3 on there, beat Razor again or whatever, and then he went on, and his career went on from there. My point is this. My point is, as a job guy, as a talent enhancement person, Vince recognized the talent that he had and recognized the humility that he had and recognized that he wasn't reticent about doing jobs, that he went in and did his job and did it well, and for that he got rewarded. And that's how a lot of people get started.
Yeah, but I know it's got to be hard, though, too. Like in Al Snow's case, for you to be a guy that's, you know, kind of on top or just not coming in as a job guy, but to be dropped down to a job guy.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. I mean, I understand what he was saying, and what he was saying was valid, but the one thing the wrestling business teaches you is you can't look at it that way. It is not an Olympic event, or it's not basketball or baseball where you go in there and your object is to go in there and win. The object is to do whatever you have to do to get over. If losing is getting not you over, but you're paid. I'll put it like this: you're paid to get the company over. Okay, I sound like Mo now. You're paid to get the company over, not yourself. The company. Everything's got to be good for the company, and that's how you gonna get your money. The checks that you get are going to show what it is you're doing for the company. So if that means putting Peter, Paul, Mary, or whoever over every week, that's what you do. You go in, and seriously, you go in with the mindset that you are there to get the program over, not yourself, not necessarily make your name, because your name is going to get made. If you play ball, no matter what it is you have to do, you're going to wind up getting over anyway. See, it's not about winning or losing. That's not what the business was ever about. The business is about two guys getting in the ring, or four guys getting in the ring, or whatever it is, and everybody doing their part to sell that particular program, to sell the company. It's all for the good of the company. And if you don't have that mindset going in this business, you're in the wrong business. Because you're not going to come in and come out the gate, and you're not going to beat John Cena overnight, if ever, or The Rock, or Stone Cold, or anything like. It's like the music business. You go in and sing a tune. Just because you go in and sing a tune, does that mean you're going to be Madonna or Beyonce? No. Does that mean you're going to sell 1 million records? Probably not. But you go in and you do the best thing you can to your ability. You do what you are told, and you do it with a smile on your face. That gives you longevity in the company. It keeps you getting paid, and it keeps you, it keeps you a part of something. If you're going with the wrong attitude and you're going thinking you're going to do anything you want to do or anything like that, you're not going to last 6 months.
Right, but at the same time, I do still think that it would be a challenge. I mean, mentally, you have to get yourself in the mindset when you come in, you start out on the bottom, okay, now you worked your way up, and now you're this big name, and then a few years later, you're back, a job guy. Then, I mean, it's gonna be a tough pill to swallow.
It's the same thing as a tough pill to swallow as a guy who was internationally known, world famous, signing autographs, partying on yachts, and today he's taking calls and teleperformance. I mean, it's like anything else. You have got to. It's like the big picture. In all seriousness, to answer your question, hon, it's like the big picture. You have got to be strong enough, and you have got to position your mind for anything. And I'm agreeing with what you just said. It's a mindset. You have got to go in knowing that anything that rises to the top.
Yep.
Pardon?
No, I said anything can happen.
Whatever goes up must come down.
Yeah.
Nobody can stay on top.
Right.
I don't care if you're the greatest boxer on the planet. If nothing but old age get to you, old age is going to make you slower, less agile, or whatever, and somebody is going to come out on top and take those belts, and your career is going to be over. The best thing you have to do is plan for the future. Can you be a legend, and can you go and make money at comic book conventions and wrestling conventions and indie shows and all the kind of stuff like that to keep your legacy alive and still keep money in your pocket? Can you got to go in knowing that, you got some people that are blessed, like The Undertaker. The Undertaker basically been on top almost since he got in the game, but everybody can't do that. Undertaker is like the Michael Jackson of the business, as is like Hulk Hogan, The Rock, or whatever. But everybody can't have that. That's one thing I had to learn personally. I'm not the Michael Jackson. I wasn't blessed to be able to go into movies and television and we living a life afterwards. All of the kind of stuff like that. But I'm fine with that. You got some people that are not fine with it. You got some people that committed suicide because they couldn't fathom. I mean, and I'm not just talking about wrestling, entertainment, period. For some people, it is hard, if not impossible, to be on top one day and homeless the next, or not even homeless, but middle class, or nobody recognizes you at the mall anymore, or anything like that, because you get used to things.
And
you got to get go ahead.
Unfortunately, not even just entertainment, just nowadays, just regular people, just having a job, a steady job, making a certain amount of money and a decent or comfortable living, and then you get, demoted or fired or laid off or whatever. A lot of times people, like you said, committing suicide. I mean, it's just today, this morning, on the news, the guy, went back down to his job. He got demoted or something, like on Friday, and he went up to his job and shot the CEO in the head and the stomach, and then shot himself in the head.
And see, I mean, that's basically people that just, you got some people that can't take it. I mean, and I'm not saying nothing behind Mo's back or something that he hasn't said in interviews or even said on his show. When it was over for him, he contemplated suicide more than once. Because you got some people, and God was with him. His angel was with him to protect him and get his mind right and prayerfully and thankfully and all that other kind of thing like that. But you got some people who are really fragile. It is not an easy pill to swallow to go from fame to obscurity, practically overnight, because you wanted it so bad, you worked hard to get it. You worked even harder to maintain it. You went through all the BS to deal with when you had it, and then it's just snatched away out your life, almost just like that. It's just not easy. I'm going to tell you that from experience. It's not easy. But you have to get in your mind that you have to live your life. So you have to recognize that your calling is something else. I happen to be, not to get religious, I happen to be a big believer in God. My wife helped get me there, so I know that my journey is not over. I know that there's something grander and greater out there that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm getting my health together, getting my mind right, getting my heart right, and everything like that. And, if you believe, not believe, but if you really believe in the grand scheme of things and that the Creator got something, out there for you to do, that's what you hang on to. That's what keeps you going. That's when you know that when you're in a state of depression or you're in a state of obscurity or a state of just standing still, you know that it's you being groomed to get greater. Moses walked through the desert for God knows how long when he got ousted out of Egypt to find, his wife and all other kind of stuff like that, to go find what his great purpose was, to lead the Israelites out of Israel. Not to get religious, but it's the same analogy. You have to walk through the desert sometimes. You have to come from greatness, walk through that desert, and then find your purpose. And me personally, that's what I'm being groomed for. I am walking through my desert right now. I've walked through the desert. I found the water and the berries, found the woman God gave me, thankfully, who's the biggest diet warden that there is. And speaking of diet wardens, let me shift gears and tell y'all a couple of funny things. How much time we got left, Felix?
We've got about 30 minutes.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. I've been on this diet, shifting gears. I started getting serious for a minute, but I'm going to bring some lightheartedness back to the show. On a diet. Thought the diet would kill me, but you know what? It's not that bad. Putting Splenda in the Kool-Aid and the lemonade and drinking diet tea and a taste of ice cold water and cutting down on my portions and all this other kind of stuff like that. But there was a couple of times when I tried to cheat on my diet, tried to sneak. I mean, it was last week. It was like 2:30 in the morning. Dreamy's in the bed snoring and slobbing and just dead sleep. I went in the kitchen and tried to get some pop, some soda out the refrigerator, real soda, and she actually woke up and caught me. I don't know how she heard that. I got a real diet warden in the house. The other day, Felix, I ordered food while she was gone all day. I actually ordered a sandwich from the pizza parlor, ordered the sandwich, ate it, got rid of all the evidence, took the garbage out. There wasn't a blemish left of nothing that I ordered. The first thing, as soon as she came in, she was like, "So, where'd you order food from?" I mean, it's like, if I fried chicken and she was across town, she would smell it from across town or where she was at.
I got to keep you on track.
That's what that's what I was gonna say. She wants you around for the next 50 years to spend you guys' life together. She wants you around.
But my question is, I understand that, and I appreciate that with all my heart. But how the hell does she know these things?
A wife knows.
Ain't that the truth?
I know you.
So, yeah, today, when I thought about going in and doing something reckless, I was like, no, she's going to find out. She's going to know. So I was real honest and real. I just kept my protocol the way it was supposed to go.
And that's how you're supposed to go. And that's how eventually you're going to begin living like this, and it's not even going to be a challenge.
I think eventually Mimi and Oscar should definitely give it a shot, and if we can make it happen, we can try to get DDP on here, and we can try to see about it, maybe hooking up a session for you guys to meet and do a DDP yoga workout. Hey, something to think about for the future.
Yeah, because I'm hearing that he's got this like emotional and physical thing that he's got going on, where he's like helping a lot of the guys, do that. So yeah, Diamond Dallas Page, and we definitely need to get a hold of him. So I tell him everything I'm going through, and then he gives me some advice. Then me and him, we can get together, and he can put me on a straight and narrow and help me in my endeavor. I believe I lost like 20 pounds in the last 2 or 3 weeks, so that's not a bad thing.
Well, no, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because the more you lose, the more mobility you'll have. That when you're walking around, your knees won't be bothering you. You can bend down and grab something, and it won't hurt as much. Your back won't be hurting. Trust me, I understand. I myself am a big man myself, and you feel the difference. I lost 70 pounds at one point, and you feel it. You do feel it. Mm-hmm. You're able to move around. You feel better. I mean, don't get me wrong. You get a long way to go, but knowing that you've gone that far, whether it be 70, whether it be 20, whether it be 2 pounds, it's something.
Right. You're going in the right direction.
Exactly.
It is a terrible thing when you are so fat that when you drop something on the floor, you like, damn, you mad because you dropped it because you got to bend down and pick it up. It's like it's not a natural reflex. It's like if you can get away with leaving it on the floor, you get away with it. You just really rather not be bothered. But if it's something you really got to have, like the top to a condiment or something like that, you really got to pick it up. But you do not pick it up without cussing the darkness before you got to bend your big ass over and get it. That's where I'm at.
Especially if you've got animals and you're trying to reach down there before they get their mouth on it and be like, oh, got to hurry, get your ass away from here. No.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know.
You know what? Felix, all of that, I heard him, but he doesn't bend down to get anything. Baby, will you get that? Baby, will you get this? Yeah, you're not bending down, picking up nothing.
Well, when you're not home, I have to bend down and get stuff, because if I leave it on the floor, you would have come
leave it on the floor.
That's
exactly what happens. I come and fuss, but you leave it on the floor.
Who wants to hear? That's why you don't find nothing on the floor no more, because who wants to hear that? I just rather swallow the pill and bend down and pick it up. Like I dropped the cap to my medicine today. It took me a few hours to go in there and get it, but I did go in there and pick it up when she came home. But I definitely left it down there because I didn't feel like bend it down and pick it up. But I'm admitting that publicly. It was a shame that I'm that big of a fat ass that I really don't want to bend down and pick something up. But yeah,
But you know, a huge part of the weight loss has to do with a lot more of the diet than it does the going into the weight room or doing yoga or whatever. A lot of it's just controlling your diet. You know, that's I found that out really. I mean, I could go in there and I'll pump iron for days and years and months, and I'll get big. But if your diet's nowhere near as good as where it should be, you're still going to have a belly on you.
Yeah.
Well, that is but honestly, that's the biggest change that I'm on right now, that I'm on smaller portion size, eating 3-4 smaller meals a day instead of one big meal and eating healthier food. I've cut down considerably on my intake of fried foods. My sugar intake is all but cut out completely, and it makes a big difference.
Now the next step is
another example I can throw at you guys. Another example I can throw at you guys. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with comedian Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy.
Oh yeah.
You know, man was over 400. He was 441 pounds. Found out he was a type 2 diabetic. Did DDP yoga, controlled his diet, lost 110 pounds.
Wow.
And he still got a long way to go, but I mean, that's a lot for a big man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he was really big, and I've seen pictures of him with the weight loss. He looks a whole lot different. And then when you do notice when you start losing weight, you feel a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you change your diet, because you're not putting so much garbage in, and you don't feel so sluggish and heavy, and it's a big difference.
You actually learn to start liking the healthy meals like the broccoli and chicken or the steamed rice. You actually find yourself actually liking the food instead of being like, oh my God, there's no taste. I'm eating cardboard, or I'm eating what I don't know. I'm just throwing out names here, but
No, actually, you know what? Actually, and this is real talk. It is not that bad. Actually, the meals are pretty damn good. They are not. When the first thought of starting it was like, I'm going to hate this stuff. I'm like, I'd rather be fat and happy than to be miserable eating this crap and losing weight and being healthy. You heard me last week. I was like, give me a case of Pepsi, the bucket of chicken, and let me die. But I don't feel like that this week. I'm like, it's pretty good.
Seriously, I know I keep pushing this, but DDP does retreats out in Mexico, where he does a weekend where you're staying at a nice hotel. You're working with him with groups. You're doing yoga at different levels, but you're working with him because he's there showing you, and also you're getting taught how to cook healthy meals, how to eat right, how to look at different things, and I can't encourage it enough. I'd say it because it's something I aspire to want to do. I would love to go on one of these retreats out in Mexico and just live it up. I mean, hey, everybody else is going to be sweating their ass off. You're going to might as well be out there too, sweating too. And I don't mind it. Hey, it's healthy. Got to get out there and get healthy and get stretching and be limber. And you never know the day might come upon you that they might ask you, Oscar, you want to step in the ring and have a match? Would you up for that?
Well,
I mean, hey, things 55 years old. He may step in the ring still. I'm just an example. I mean, there are still people in their 50s that are still wrestling.
We need to get DDP in here so he can discuss it, tell us all about it, and I'd sign up. I like DDP, always have. I think he's one of the premier talents. And if anybody is, and I know that he was working with Scott Hall on some of his issues, not weight loss or nothing like that, but other stuff. So I know he's real sincere, real helpful, real faithful, and he's somebody that I would love to talk to. So
you might actually run into him at one of those Legends conventions in the future.
We can definitely look into it. Yeah, the couple that I've been to, I haven't been blessed to see him. I know last year I was at a big one in Monroe, New Jersey, where they had a lot of the guys, but he wasn't on the ticket. But no, DDP is somebody that I definitely would love to talk to. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to my brother Mike. I know he's listening. Hello, Mikey, Mike, Dreamy Mimi's biggest fan. In closing, Dreamy, do you have anything you want to add or say? Or
last week, one of you guys, I don't remember if it was you or Mo, but the question was brought up: who would I like to see as far as an interview? CM Punk.
Now that would be interesting.
Yes.
He's never one to shy away from the truth.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that would be a good interview.
Well, let's see.
I wouldn't mind seeing you guys get Jimmy Cornette.
Jim Cornette?
I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Jim Cornette and I, we have rode up and down Texas together on many occasions. It would be good to talk to Jim Cornette again. It's been a long time. But we actually used to ride together. Jim Cornette taught me a lot of the secrets. He taught me how to get a late checkout of a hotel. We were at a hotel, and then I said, Jim, it's 12 o'clock. They call with a checkout. He was like, well, how you do that is, Oscar, what you do is when they call, you just don't answer the phone. Then you check out 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon, and you don't stop at the desk. You just leave. You don't owe them no money. They don't owe you no money, so you just leave out. That's all you do. And we didn't check out to the hotel till like 5:30. So, yeah, Jim Cornette has a vast history. He's
another one that can sit there and talk, and I mean the stories he tells and his way of telling it is freaking hilarious.
Oh,
he's got his own podcast.
You can put him on autopilot and just let him go. If you don't stop Jim Cornette, we'll be on the phone an hour after the show is over, and that's the kind of guest we like to have around here. I
love it. Yeah, he's awesome.
So. Yeah, no, all right. So that's on our wish list. CM Punk, Jim Cornette. Yeah. Let's take a couple of minutes. All right, Felix, who else would you like to see on Not Your Mama's radio show? Let's see if we can make that happen for you.
Well, let's see. Maybe a top 3 list, if we were to go with the top 3. Definitely the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Okay, I'm sure he'd do it for us.
Let me see. I would have to go. I would still have to go with Jim Cornette. And if I were to choose my third and final one, well, you know what? I would still have to go with the idea of going with Vince Russo.
Okay. Well, Vince Russo said that he would. It's just a matter of. But see, I think that it being the climate, and I don't take this personal, I think he's really hesitant about doing interviews with anybody now because I think with everything going on, he don't want to get blindsided and ask a bunch of embarrassing questions right now. So I'm going to write him tonight on my Twitter page and let him know what I will not do, that, anything he's not comfortable answering, just give me some questions that he don't want to ask. I could tell you, for me personally, I would like to talk to J.J. Dillon. Definitely. It's simply because when I worked for JJ, when I first started with WWE, he was one of the smartest, most articulate individuals that I ever had the pleasure of talking to. The level of his intellectuality I was just intrigued by it. So yeah, he's somebody I like to talk to. Besides CM Punk, Dreamy, who else you want to talk to?
That's it that I can think of right now. You see, it took me a whole week to figure that out.
Okay. But you know what, though? Having Al Snow on here was definitely one of those ones that would have been awesome to have, and we were able to get him and, pick his brain a little bit and get an education on a lot of things, and,
Oh, yeah.
I look forward to seeing him down in Chicago later on this year. Well,
are you guys close to Chicago?
Yeah, like 30 minutes.
Oh, well, there you go. Wizard World. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, he told me, he said, all you have to do, for a lot of these comic book conventions, if you don't get a guarantee, he just said a lot of it is just contacting them, telling them who you are, and, if you have your gimmicks or whatever, he just said they'll let you set up a table. So a lot of them.
Well, see, that's kind of like what I was trying to do for you guys for Podcast 1. I was trying to set up a deal for you guys to come on there as guests for Jim or Steve or Chris or even Goldberg, just to get out there and get because these guys get their downloads. They got hundreds of downloads, millions actually. I mean, we're still in the hundreds and we're getting up there. We're building. It's a slow process. We got to build. But I mean, to get to the level of a Steve Austin or a Jim Ross, we can do it. It can happen.
Definitely.
And to get out there and get that notoriety. Again, get to people, familiar with who you guys were and what you guys did, and what you guys would like to be, doing in the future, whether it be continuing on with a podcast or doing these visits to these conventions or Comic Cons. It's an idea that's worth given some thought, and maybe you and Mimi, or you, Mimi and Oscar, or you, Mimi and Mo, go up to, I don't know, we'll say Wizard World, and just bring some stuff and sign some autographs, take some pictures, and just have a blast. That's what I would.
Stroke my ego before we go. Are we still on the incline, or are we like the network? Are we falling off?
No, you know what?
Few hundred. How are we doing?
It was a little slow over the last couple of weeks. It kind of dropped a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It kind of went down just a little bit with some of the issues with certain guests that we were not able to get on. No names mentioned. Just incredible. I mean, otherwise, for the most part, like I said, it's a work in progress. We peaked when we hit it with the show with Cue Ball and Ivan. We had some good views, good downloads with Thrasher. I definitely believe this one will be one of our highest ones. Without people, he's still a relevant guy. People still know who he is, and for the most part, we just keep working and making it happen, and keep getting the guys on here, and if anything, having some fun. And I think people will continue to listen, especially as we're going to get on your guys' page and your any part of your social media, so people get familiar with you.
What about Rhino? Did you touch base with him last week?
I did not touch base with Rhino because I'm just going to say no. I'll tell you off.
Okay.
And on that note,
right.
With the idea, I wanted to pose a question to you guys real quick. We still got about roughly 12 minutes or so.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about this idea of having Stephanie McMahon step back into the ring? She's really not a wrestler. She was never really that talented in the ring like her brother was. Her brother had no wrestling ability whatsoever, but he was such a daredevil that people would flock to see his matches because you just never knew what that crazy McMahon boy would be doing. Do you guys looking forward to seeing Stephanie versus Brie?
I hope Brie Bella kicks her behind.
Yeah, I personally, go ahead, Dreamy. I'll say when you're done.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, it's been a long time coming. Somebody needs to do it. So, if they let it go on, that's what I hope to see.
Well, you're probably not going to see it happen because it's probably going to be like another Vicky Guerrero scenario.
Yeah.
Which, But no, I mean, I think some things shouldn't be done. She's not an in-ring worker. I think that, it just looked like a badly choreographed cat fight if she did. Brie Bella's got some experience. She does not. So, there's no value to it. There's value to the build-up by it, her versus Brie Bella. But I think it would be a mistake of epic proportion for her to actually suit up and try and actually, wrestle because she's not Shane. You're right. Shane used to really do some. Well, speaking of Shane, while we're on the subject, Shane is Vince's son, honey. Where is Shane these days? Have you heard? He's like, where's Waldo? We don't hear too much about him anymore.
Well, the last thing I heard about him was that, he was still the chairman and I believe the CEO, possibly either or, of You On Demand in China. He stepped down out of that position. I had heard at the beginning of the year that Triple H and Stephanie were trying to get him to make an appearance at WrestleMania for the 30th anniversary. That obviously never worked out. To be honest,
right.
I think at this point he really didn't feel like he had anything left to prove to get in. I mean, he's had. If you go back and look at the match he had with Kurt Angle in 2001 at the King of the Ring, that was the definition of brutality. And this guy kept on taking it and taking it. Kurt put him through the ringer and literally dropped him on his head, and you could hear the thud when he dropped him on his head. I'm like, oh my God, he cracked his damn skull. You know, and I think at this point in his life, he's in his mid-40s now, and he's got 2 boys, I think 3 possibly, with his wife Marissa, and I think he's just happy being home with his family. You know, I mean, he's still around. He's still there with his parents. He'll go visit and, you know, let Vince be Vince with his grandkids and Linda, who's pretty much retired now, too. You know, I just don't think he really wants to be a part of it anymore at this point. I think he'd rather just let Stephanie and Hunter run it the way they see fit, and maybe somewhere down the line he might make an appearance. But that's about it.
That's the part of it, and we opened up another can of worms to end off the show, a whole new discussion. This is the part of it that I never understood, and I'm going to tell you why. Shane produced and directed my WrestleMania video, okay? I bring that up because that gave me an insight to how smart he was, to how confident he was. At that time, you know, he was he was writing some of the scripts back then and everything like that. So I'm just at a loss as to, I mean, I understand, you know, who Triple H is. He married Stephanie. Okay, great. He's the son-in-law. Fantastic. He has a fantastic wrestling mind, obviously. I remember when he came. I remember the first day he came in as Hunter Hearst Helmsley with that ridiculous blue robe and that white scarf. I remember, you know, when he was quiet, low key, and he, you know, he rose to you know, power and dominion over us all. Okay, that's great. But at that time, you know, speaking about Shane, knowing how smart he was, he had his father's good looks. He looked just like a young Vince. And I thought that he was the heir apparent. And so when it came down that he wasn't, that's not how it played out. You know, and I remember when, and I'll tell you something else. When I was there, Stephanie was just a receptionist. She had like a summer job. I mean, you know, she was the receptionist. Because I remember saying, you know, hi, and Dave Hebner was like, that's Vince's daughter. I'm like, really? We go back that far.
Oh yeah.
But I'm trying to figure how it all went askew. How Stephanie's the princess. She's so-called running the company with Hunter.
She is exactly like her father.
Shane is out of the and Shane is out of the picture. I'm trying to figure out how he gets out of the picture. Because to me, he should have been the heir apparent. He should have been the guy to take over.
I agree, and most would have agreed as well. I mean, he's the one that ultimately, after the story with Randy Orton and the McMahons back in 2009, he, you know, towards the end of that year, he quietly stepped down as executive vice president, I believe, of digital media, and was looking to pursue that chance in China, where he had stayed for a number of years. I mean, he was always there supporting his mom with her Senate runs and so forth, and always there for his family whenever they need him. But for the most part, I just don't think he really had it in him, the passion in him anymore to want to do it. And although it probably broke Vince's heart, it probably did, because that was his boy. Ultimately, he understood, and I'm sure he always left the door open to come back any time. I think deep down, I really do believe Shane is still a shareholder in the company, though.
Well, I would hope so. Now, the way you just said it is a different take than what I was led to believe. You said that he lost the passion for it and didn't want to do it anymore. The way I understood it is he was stepped over for Triple H. You ever heard that? You know, I'm not going to lie. I heard a very small piece of that. I don't know what really was, you know, what was said completely, because nowadays you don't know what to believe. Right. There you go. Right. Well,
but I hadn't heard about
it. That's the way that I got the story years ago, and that's why I'm bringing this up now, because I couldn't understand it. Because, you know, I mean, you got some.
Actually, that would make sense.
You got some people who, you know, you look at their kids and you like their kids are idiots. I'd never worked for that guy's kid or nobody like, you know, I wouldn't. Well, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't work for him, but I wouldn't want to because he didn't. But Shane never came across to me like that. He came across as intelligent, competent, a competent guy who it made all the sense in the world that if Vince ever, and for the record, just for FYI, Vince is never going to step down until he's dead. Now, let's all get that out the way. If you think Triple H is running that company, I got a bridge to sell you in Kookaroo, Pennsylvania. All right? Vince is not going to step down until he's dead, or Vince's dead body, as we would say back in the day. But as a public face, as a decision maker, and as somebody high up in the company, you know, I just can't imagine him. It has to be the other way around, the way I first heard it, because I can't imagine him leaving it like that. He had a passion for it back then, and that just doesn't leave overnight without something being said, something happening, something going wrong. Now, I could be wrong, anything like that, but like I said, he was competent, he was passionate for the business, he had all the tools, so it just doesn't make sense to me right now that he's, like, not around.
That's true.
And
so we got planned for next week, guys.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call a close to another edition of Not Your Mama's Radio Show. Mo wasn't here, but this was a good show anyway.
I know. I miss Mo.
It was a better show without him.
I miss Mo.
Yeah, you missed Mo.
You know what, though? All things considered, with having Al on the show and the discussions we brought up, I think overall I agree with you, Oscar. Tonight was a good show.
You and Mo are always in cahoots about this, that, and the other thing. Y'all always agree with each other with everything. That's why you miss Mo.
Whatever.
I agree with Mimi. That's right. You need to lose 1,000 pounds, Oscar. Yeah, okay, whatever. Felix, we're going to talk this week.
Yes.
Let us know in a few days how we doing. I like to keep track of these things, and we'll put our heads together, and we'll finally make a buck because it's time to make some money off the books.
Sure, absolutely. And hopefully maybe you guys can set something up with Wizard World in a couple of weeks or months or whatever it's going to come up to head out that way. And would love for you guys to post some pictures or send some pictures to me, and I'll post it on the page.
All right, yeah, definitely. I'm definitely gonna get in touch with those people and definitely find out how we can make that happen because I got to do some other stuff. So, Felix, love you, man. I'm gonna be talking to you in a couple of days. You know, you send me a Facebook message. Well, before we go. What the hell you be doing at 4 o'clock in the morning when you're sending messages on Facebook and me like a dummy, I'm half asleep answering you back? What time do you get up at night?
To be quite honest with you, I don't sleep very much. I sleep when I have to work. Of course, I'm in bed as early as possible. But if I'm not working the next morning, I'm already planning the shows for the following week because I have my show Tuesday, I have a Friday show, I have a Sunday show, and I have this show. So I'm kind of working the details out because, to be honest, I want this to go somewhere, and deep down I know it could. So I'm always kind of plotting and planning and getting ideas from everybody and people loving what we do and just want to keep giving them more of what we can do.
Well, hey, I got a tip for you before you go. You want to have some fun? Sir. Message Mimi around 11:30 midnight. She's on 3 different pain medications, high as a kite. Message her, and I'm almost sure that you are going to have a blast because I have a blast looking at her.
Always a pleasure, guys. Always a pleasure.
You have a good night, Felix.
You do the same, guys. I'll talk to you guys next week.
All right.